You are looking at a $290 12-core workstation I bought off eBay to replace my old editing machine. This Z600 came equipped out of the box with dual Xeon X5650s at 2.66 GHz and 24 GB of DDR3 unbuffered ECC RAM, allowing it to plow through compute-intensive tasks in its stock configuration. Today we are going to take this powerful and somewhat power-hungry machine, throw some money at it, and make it even faster. Now keep in mind, we are not a gaming channel, so the goal here is not necessarily to build a gaming PC, though I can assure you the system definitely will be able to play modern titles, and I will demo that. However, I am more concerned with this system's performance when it comes to video editing. After all, it is replacing the old editing rig. My original build plans included a GTX 780 Ti, dual Xeon X5680s, a PCI Express SATA 3 card, a PCI Express USB 3.0 card, along with some parts brought over from my old desktop. However, I soon found out that the X5680s were not compatible with this system, even after trying some modifications suggested by the HP community. And I also found out that the PCI Express SATA 3 card was not recognized by the Z600. So I swapped the processors out for two X5675s, which are 6-core, 12-thread Xeons at 3.06 GHz, and settled for SATA 2. I knew that the 780 Ti was going to be a gamble. It's an incredibly power-hungry card, and the system's 12-volt rail is a little on the weak side. So when it turned out that the PSU's overload protection kicked in every time I tried to run a game or a benchmark, I wasn't really surprised. I put the 780 Ti back on the market and bought a GTX 1060 off eBay for $180. After I got the GPU issues sorted out, I realized I could not find a working driver for the Z600's onboard sound. So I tossed in an extreme fidelity sound blaster I had laying around in storage in order to get some audio output. With everything sorted out, it was time to hit the benchmarks. With 12 cores and 24 threads under my command, I was eager to tear through Cinebench. The Z600 did not disappoint. With the stock X5650s, the Z600 scored a 1311, and with the new X5675s, the Z600 scored a 1471. I know that a Ryzen 1700 will also attain nearly the same score with fewer cores and while consuming less power. However, keep in mind, the 1700s are about $220 new, and I bought the base Z600 with RAM, case, motherboard, and CPUs included for $290. And if you want to check out the seller where I bought that machine from, the link will be down in the description. Moving on to 3D Mark, I was actually pleasantly surprised because the single-core performance of these Xeons is far from stellar, and I was worried that this might have a drastic impact on 3D rendering and gaming. And though I believe it still is negatively affecting scores, it's not detrimental. The upgraded Z600 scored a 10,549 in Firestrike. For the last benchmark, I'm using good old Passmark. I was actually really unhappy with this score. The system, CPU, and graphics scores were excellent. However, the 1333 MHz DDR3 RAM and SATA 2 dragged down the overall Passmark score to a 3,495. I got a lot of negative feedback about this build with regards to gaming, and I can see where that sentiment is coming from as the single-core CPU performance is lackluster as mentioned earlier. but it managed to hold its ground pretty well. In Far Cry 5, with the graphics set to Ultra at 2560 by 1440, the frame rate hovered between 40 and 50 frames per second. In Battlefield 4, set to Ultra at 1080p, I was getting around 120 frames per second, and at 4K, the frame rate jumped between 30 and 40 FPS. Now let me get to the part that I find most interesting. My old editing PC was a Dell XPS 8700 with a quad-core i7-4790, GTX 1050 Ti, and 16GB of DDR3. About a month before that, I was using an AMD FX 8350 based system, but that's a whole nother story. I noticed that these XPSs sell for about $350 on eBay, so I decided to sell my XPS and pick up one of these workstations. Now you guys can clearly see that the Z600 does have some drawbacks, but it really does make a monster budget editing rig. On my XPS, it took me about 20 minutes to render a video. And on the Z600, that render time on the same video was cut in half. Additionally, it takes a lot less time to render effects with the Z600, and the timeline editor is smooth as butter. Now I can attest to how this would handle 4K video, as my camera only shoots 1080p at 60 frames per second, though in the future I do plan to use this for 4K video editing. So let's talk about price. I hinted at some of the build costs in the video, but let me show you the math to see how much it would cost you to put together a similar build. So the Z600 itself was $290, and that was including the 24GB of RAM and the two X5650 processors, along with shipping as well. We swapped out those X5650s with two X5675s I bought for $80, but hold on, you can sell back those two X5650s for $35, so the processors in total are going to cost you $45. The GTX 1060 was an additional $180. The audio card that I used for this build is no longer on the market, but you can get an entry-level PCI StarTech sound card for about $19. At a budget 500GB solid-state drive from Silicon Power for $79, and you're looking at a total build price of around $615. Oh, and I forgot, for the GTX 1060, you will need a 6-pin to 8-pin adapter, so that's going to cost you another $10. So bumping that up, your total build cost will actually be around $625. And if you want to check out any of the stuff I just mentioned, all of the corresponding links will be down in the description. That's going to be about it for this video, guys. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and post a comment down in the comment section. Don't forget to drop a like on this video. If you didn't like this video, please tell me why. And of course, please do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next installment of A Computers and Technology. In my last video on this Z600, I promised my viewers I would take a look at power consumption, but I couldn't really find a place to fit it into this video, so I'm just tacking it onto the end. Also, I forgot to demonstrate the speeds of the SATA 3 card, but I can confirm, after running Crystal Disk Mark with a solid-state drive hooked up, that USB 3.0 card is doing its job. So let's look at power consumption right now. As you can see, I have Prime 95 open and FurMark open right now, but they are not running yet, so the system is at idle. And if we take a look down here at our meter, you can do it. I think you guys can see that. We're sitting at 177 watts right now. So what we're going to do now is start Prime 95 and FurMark and see what that jumps up to. So we're going to start Prime 95. We're going to start FurMark. We're going to max out the GPU and CPU. Nice, solid 1 FPS right now. So we got Prime 95 FurMark running. And we're up to, well, actually not that bad. Yeah, that's not bad at all, actually. We're sitting at a 424 watts at max power right now. Almost 500. It jumps there. I actually thought the power consumption would be a little bit higher, closer to the not the CPU, but the PSU's max, which is 650 watts. So I thought we'd be sitting around 600, but we're a little bit lower than that, sitting at about 500 watts power consumption right now. Oh, there we go.